What's going on? It's your boy Tyrus Duncan, and I'm here. I was going to say with another episode of Ty Talks, but actually I have an announcement. We are making a transition to a new name, a new season, a new opportunity for you to come share your story. This podcast is now known as the Journey Up Podcast, and I have my phone here because it's a lot of words, and I'm going to explain to you guys the concept. So the Journey Up is a storytelling podcast that dives deep into personal journeys through life's darkest hours and the resilience it takes to rise again. Each episode features a guest who shares a raw, unfiltered account of one of the lowest points in their life and the trials and tribulations they faced. Listeners will hear about the challenges, breakthroughs, and the strength it took to overcome adversity. And our mission is to create a space for vulnerability, reflection, and inspiration by bringing to light stories of resilience and transformation. The podcast aims to provide hope, community, and encouragement to listeners who may be navigating their own struggles, reminding them they're not alone and that growth is always possible. Welcome to the Journey Up Podcast. Today I have a very, very, very special guest, a great listener, great active listener. He taught me a lot just by listening and me hearing myself talk. You know I love to hear myself talk. But this brother right here shows me the grace and that he gives the listener the ear needed so I can get my thoughts off. He's an artist. I let him explain himself because no one does it better than him. But he's an artist around the city. He's a mental health enthusiast. He loves Jesus. Today I have Rome Herbert.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's
How
good,
you doing?
bro?
I don't know if I should dap up or not. I should say, oh, yeah. We in the building.
What's going on, brother?
Man, I'm just grateful to be here, bro, honestly. Yeah, just happy to be in this space. I know this is like round 2, right?
It is.
But they wasn't ready for
They wasn't ready
before.
Man, we tried this before and
Yeah.
the audio didn't come through. Sometimes you go through these little trials and tribulations where you try to give people some gems to make it through. And you know, life gonna throw some challenges at you.
Exactly.
But it's not about how you fall. It's about how you get up.
Back up. It's a journey up.
It's a journey up. And here we are. We took the journey from the low, and now we up on the high.
Now we up now.
Give the people some knowledge on who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Rome Herbert. Right, I'm a mood building, room bonding byproduct of Black American schizophrenia. I create bold music to fight fear. I do this through writing, recording, releasing, and performing songs, as well as facilitating interactive and empathetic listening spaces, kind of like this one. And I do all of that to the sounds of Blackness, mental health, and Jesus until the whole world hears us. So that's my mission and my aim.
That was quite beautiful. How'd you come up with a mission so pristine?
Oh, pristine. That's a nice word. Well, through a lot of dirt, you feel me? A lot of mud. That's how the mission came out. Yeah, so my mom, she has a mental illness, schizophrenia specifically. And growing up, having that, initially she had tried to end me and my sister's life and then had harmed my brother. And so she eventually got stabilized, but then it also relapsed later on in like high school. And that's when I really found out about it and knew more, essentially. And then my parents, I got divorced, split. Just a lot of trauma, a lot of pain in those like high school years. And realizing that even though I came to faith in Jesus at that time, that's like when my whole life fell apart. And growing up in between where we was at in Pike Township and Brightwood, 2 different experiences in the hood.
Very two different experiences.
Being in Pike, right? Even though we was like 52nd Lafayette, it's like there's always this tension of being a misfit wherever I was at. And that's kind of, I say, parallel to the Black experience in America, where when I consider how my mom interacted and what her mental illness shaped her, is this paranoia that took place often. And when you're Black, you experience things, you have this paranoia about the spaces you in, or when you know what I'm saying, you're on the block too. Like it's this certain experience that's so unique that I was like, man, it's really how the black people have to live, no matter where you from, no matter where you at in this country. But through that, I found like the fear I was facing so often, I found kind of refuge both in my faith in Jesus, but also music. So music was always this outlet for me to kind of explain kind of the landscape I was living within and how it's hard to express, especially mental illness growing up now. It's a little bit more destigmatized, but it's still stuff going around. But when I was coming up, like, you know what I'm saying, you know, talk about that, especially when it came to Black spaces, Black families. So it was a lot of kind of I think you use analogy often, pushing it under the rug, you know. But when you do that so often, you start to trip up. You start realizing like, nah, this is gonna bubble up. It's gonna be a heart attack eventually. Like you referenced in the other episode. So
see what I mean by the brother being a great active listener?
Yeah, I'll be listening, man. I love what you do, so I love it. But yeah, overall, it's that journey of understanding, like, man, even if nobody fully understand me or understand my experience, I have a tool that I feel like God has given me in a unique story and background. And so I started through writing, you know what I'm saying, recording, releasing music, and performing it. I realized, like, now these songs can have an impact on people, but my three main pillars, because when I went to college, that's the first time I really understood, like, my blackness, too, like, how people gonna perceive me. And so I'm like, man, I want this to be a main part of, like, championing blackness, but then also connecting mental health, because it's often stigmatized in our experiences. But then make sure I tie in my faith piece about Jesus, because that's really what sustained me when it came to the day-to-day ins and outs. When I came to faith and I came to know him, it's like, man, like, now I kind of have more of a reason for living versus just kind of being aimless. And it was such a unique coming to Jesus experience for me, because I went to a church camp, essentially, and one of the people there was a Christian rapper. And so initially, I thought when I came to my faith, I was like, I'm going to have to kind of get this music thing up, because I seen it used for so much darkness, and I thought I was going to use it for the same thing. But he kind of just broke down to me like, nah, bro, you can run this same lane and use this for good and use it for the benefit of people. So, yeah, it really just, you know what I mean, just been a conglomerate of testing things out, trying things out, and seeing what would I die for, right? What would my legacy be about? And I feel good if I could get people to understand that through my music. Yeah.
You said something beautiful there. So you basically created your mission off of what you would die for.
Mm-hmm.
But you live for it.
That part. The living sometimes is easy. No, it's harder. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that in the journey down, but journey down, that's probably a good segment. But like, yeah, it's sometimes it is easy to identify. Like, you know, you think about family you die for. You see MLK up there on the screen, or not screen, but you see MLK on the painting, you see Malcolm X on the painting. Like, these are people that actually died for their ideals. But it's hundreds and thousands of other people that had to live out what they talked about. And those are often the unsung heroes that kind of laid the foundation and bolstered their voices forward. Because without the people that are living it, when things got incredibly difficult, then we probably wouldn't hear their message disseminated as widely as it is now.
Oh, for sure. And that's a concept that we talked about in therapy today. Just the idea of how every choice that we make affects the people after us. So it's like, if you think back to slavery, small decisions that they made while they were in slavery slowly led to their freedom, even if they weren't able to see the freedom. So it's like the choices that we make on the daily could lead to somebody else's freedom. And we might not see the total freedom. I mean, Martin Luther King, for instance, he didn't see what his mission was come to life, but his mission still came to life. And that's something to hold on to as we're keeping our missions to our hearts, and as we're living for our missions. It's like every choice that we're making forward is leading Israel out of Egypt. Is leading the slaves out of captivity. Is leading the people who are in bondage away from where they're trying to get away from. And although we may not see it, it's bigger than us. And I think if we're rooted in humility, our missions make sense. But that's not the point of this show.
Oh, okay, he got it already. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, because it's like, how do you see every decision impacting the road to freedom, especially if it's a place, because it's people that generationally had born, lived, and died in slavery, like both from that context of Israel, but then also from the context of American chattel slavery. So it's like, how do you even visualize a concept like that you never seen?
And to them,
work towards that,
all they were thinking about was freedom in their heads. It's like every decision they were making was trying to gear them towards freedom. So with us and our missions, every step that we take is to try to get our missions to come to life. And even if we don't see our mission come to life, doesn't mean that we're not making progress towards making our missions come to life. Because every step that you take up the mountain gets you closer to the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. For instance, Moses didn't make it to the promised land, right?
Yeah, which is wild.
But his people did. And they wouldn't have gotten there if Moses didn't make the steps towards the promised land that he took. And sometimes it takes us as leaders to take those steps towards the promised land while also accepting that we might not make it to the promised land.
How does that feel, though?
That doesn't make.
How does that feel?
I think
because you're a visionary, right?
Yeah.
Like the visions that you have, and then
as a leader, you almost have to be. That's kind of what separates the leaders and the followers. Most followers only see what they see. Mm-hmm. Leaders see what's in front of them. They take what they have around them, and they don't let that stop them from getting what they know could be possible. And I say could be for a reason, because they don't know that it is possible, but what is faith? Is knowing that something could be possible, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like the transition out of bondage into freedom. You know that freedom is an idea that is or could be possible. You don't know, he didn't know that Egypt could have stopped and killed all of them, right?
Exactly.
But even through what he knew, he didn't let what he knew stop him from what could be possible. So he made those steps towards freedom, and eventually the people got free, even though he died before.
Which is a tough tension, because it's like we ideally would want to see the fruits, so to speak, of our labor, of our visions come to passage. But then my thought even on that point too, how much Egypt needed them at the same time.
Or they thought that they needed them.
Or thought that they needed them.
I mean, because
that's true. Yeah, I mean, because they ended up. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, go crazy on that thought.
No, I want to go back to the point where you said that us having mission statements or whatever, we hope to see the fruits of our labor, which is why I said we have to have our missions rooted in humility. It's like, even if I don't see the fruits of my labor, I believe in this mission so much that I'm going to do anything to make sure that it comes to life, even if I don't get to see it in life. Even if it comes to life in my death.
Wow.
Because sometimes
even if it comes to life in my death.
Because sometimes the death could be the conduit of it coming to life. Mm-hmm.
That's tough, though.
Jesus had to die in order for us to live.
That part.
So sometimes the death is the conduit of life. That's the connecting piece. And without the death, there could be no life. Jesus had to die.
Had to.
Like
there was no other way.
There was no other way. So he had to die.
Like, could you let this cup pass from me?
Even though he knew.
He knew for a fact.
He knew what he was here for. Yeah. He knew what was up. He knew what the mission was. He knew that he had to die in order to give life. So it's like, if we understand our missions and we understand our purpose, we can't let nothing stop us. If you know what needs to be done in order for your mission to be completed, you got to go through it. Even if that means hanging on the cross to your death. Because even through then, you know you'll get risen again. And even that's true freedom, right? That's the freedom that we all strive for, heaven.
Yeah.
So believing in something being greater tomorrow than what you see today, that's something to strive for. That's a reason to keep going. It's like, although this experience is painful unto death, and I want to give up, and this is very terrible. I'm sick of this. Just understanding that even through my death, I may have life more abundantly forever, eternally, where there'll be no more crying, no more tears, no more sorrow, no more weeping, none of that. That's a reason to keep going, even through the pains of this present time. There's a scripture, what did it say? The joy of the future, or I gotta find it because I can't mess it up, and I should know it off the top of my head.
No, I'm the same way. I'll take the GPS every time because I don't always know how to get there.
It said, well, my people in the audience, y'all know what it is? The present moment.
But the present moment isn't worth comparing with the joy that is
the sufferings of this present moment
isn't worth being compared with the joys to be revealed.
Yeah.
Something like that. Type.
Okay, I think I found it. Like I said, I gotta say it right, and I should know this considering my background, but you know.
No, ain't no shame, bro. We all.
It's Romans 8:18. Can't believe Rome got me pulling out the Bible. He said his last mission was Jesus. And this brother got me pulling out the Bible.
It was coming.
And it said, why is all these pop-ups coming? Fix that Bible app. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the sufferings of this present time are not even to be compared to the joys, to the gratitude, the graciousness, the love, the life, the eternal well-being that comes after the suffering. You know that scripture, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And I've learned not only does joy come in the morning, but joy comes through the morning. Two different mornings there. The morning when we rise and the morning after a loss. Joy comes through that. It's like the experience in the loss and you accepting, like, dang, man, that's terrible. But the joy and understanding, oh, they're not weeping no more. There's no more pain no more. There's still a joy there, right? It's like, would you rather keep somebody there suffering for your own self? Or understand that weeping may endure for a night? You're going to feel it. It's not to say that you're not going to feel it, right?
Yeah, I think we want to skip past that part so much.
Yeah, and we want to. It's like, we shouldn't weep. Why not? Mm-hmm. It's like it's the balance of life, highs and lows, happy and sad, weeping, joy. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy will come in the morning. And that's something to hold on to. It's like, man, I'm weeping. And sometimes, like, how long will this night be? I've been weeping for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm tired. I'm ready to go to sleep. Because I know that joy is going to come in the morning. And I think it's just something we mess up and we die when we lose the hope that the morning isn't coming. But if you hold on to the idea that joy is going to come in the morning, I promise joy will come in the morning. For sure.
And it's a promise too, right? Because will.
It's not. It didn't say may come in the morning. It didn't say that it might come in the morning. It didn't say there's a chance that it'll come in the morning. But it said joy will come in the morning, and the will is not to be argued. That means 100% this is going to happen. When someone says I will do this, you're trusting that they're going to do exactly what they said they're going to do. So when it said joy will come in the morning, you better sit there, trust and believe that joy is going to come in the morning.
And you can only base that off of the character of the individual saying that, right? Like you're saying, if depending on who's making that promise, because we experience people that make these promises
and don't uphold them.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing is like, what is your trust level in this person that's saying this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to your understanding. It's hard to trust something, especially when you can't see it, which is why I get people's skepticism, their doubts when it comes to God. Because it's like, and I think part of our doubt and our skepticism when it comes to God comes from what we're trusting him for. And a lot of times what we're trusting him for is not rooted in him, but is rooted in us.
Go in.
And then when
how's it rooted in us, you think?
When he doesn't come through with what we want, and our heart postures are not right, or it's not in line with his will, we get frustrated. It's like, but I trusted you to make this come to life. And maybe that's just not how it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So you trusted him. Did you really trust him? Did you trust him to be who he said he was going to be? Or did you trust him to be who you wanted him to be? Because there's a difference there.
Yeah, and it's like so many people are taught, though, to... like, basically, his will is dependent upon what you want.
I mean, there's a lot of toxicness that goes on in what we're taught of God in general. Because you let most people tell it, God is supposed to rid of all suffering. Mm-hmm. The rid of all suffering comes...
that you would lack faith if you experience...
I mean, the rid of all suffering comes after death. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, God never did promise that there would be no suffering. He promised that he'll be there. He promised that he won't leave you through the suffering. He promised that on the journey up to wherever you're going, that you'll have a friend in him.
Yeah.
He didn't promise that there would be no suffering. And I think the church has done a disservice. Just turn it all to God and you'll be okay.
But what's be okay mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
He let his son die on the cross.
Yeah, that's a huge contrast.
You know what I mean? Like his people, the chosen people, were suffering in Israel for years. So it's not that there will be no suffering, but for real, it's like I'll be with you through the suffering. That's where our relationship with God has to come from. And the upsetness comes when it's like, but God, I trusted that you would do this for me. It's like, where was your heart posture when you trusted that God would do what for you? What were you really trusting him for? Was it for your own good or was it for his good? All things are working for our good for those who love God, right? It's like, what is your loving God rooted in? Him or is it rooted in you? Is it rooted in who you want him to be or is it rooted in who he is? God is a God of justice. And just as much as he's a God of peace, he's a God of chaos too. Go read the Old Testament if you don't believe so. But it was up for a lot of them just because they ain't listen. Just because he gives us grace and mercy now. Don't forget, the same God that created the world destroyed the world too.
And he also promised that he's gonna come back a whole different way too.
And I'm gonna destroy it worse this time.
Yeah.
So don't.
It's all the way up.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's been a disservice, which is why so many of us have faulty relationships with God. Because it's like, I trusted that you was gonna save my family. I trusted that you was gonna give me a new house or a new car and all these earthly things, these corrupt goods and whatever. But it's like, you had faith that God was gonna do what he said he was gonna do, but did you do what he asked you to do? Because faith without works is what? Dead. So it's like, you had faith, you prayed, you trusted. It's like somebody going and eating a whole bunch of unhealthy food, getting so unhealthy, so big, my 600-pound life, whatever. And they let God take this weight away from me. God looking at you right now. All those decisions that you made before this led up to this. And now you asking me to save you? Does that even make sense? But we will do that. And we do that. And we'll be like, God, you're not showing up how I wanted you to show up. You didn't show up how you were supposed to show up. And you want to blame God. And that's not how it worked at all.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of shame that's instilled when people don't see the outcomes that other people might have, right? So it goes back to comparison, right? If you're comparing the joy that's to come based upon somebody else's experience or situation or miracle versus the joy that's to come with God's glory being revealed, it's a whole different weight. Because it's like, who knows? Some of the people that got healed and had miracles, we don't know how their story ended. Like, maybe some of them walked away from God. Maybe they experienced a miracle. They got up and walked, but then they didn't follow Jesus.
But they didn't tell about him.
Or they didn't tell about it. This is for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I think there's a kind of one-sided relationship where we look at God. You heard people always say, we look at God as a genie. And we'll hope for God to answer our wishes.
Yeah.
But it's a relationship. And nobody wants a one-sided relationship. And that's one part I struggle with God sometimes. Because I'm like, sometimes it just don't feel like he's there. And then I have to question myself, like, where are you wanting him to be before you say he ain't there?
Where are you wanting him to be?
Where are you looking at before you say he ain't there?
Yeah. Because there's usually holes and gaps in our personal lives, right? That we wanted something from somebody else. So I even think about, right, they use a parallel often about our relationship with God is oftentimes mirror or reminiscent our relationship to our fathers. And so a lot of people's gaps ends up being like their parental figures and how their relationship developed or underdeveloped, and in turn, that's the distance they feel from God. I mean, even speaking from my own experience too, right? Speaking from my own experience, when I consider the distance in my relationship with my earthly dad, and the abandonment I felt, right, that oftentimes trickles into how I approach and view God. I think like I gotta do stuff on my own now, or why I talk to God if, you know what I mean, God kind of be like, God's giving me the tools to do what I got to do. Now it's up to me type situation. But then can end up reverting and be like, oh, well, you know, come back to blaming God for like, why didn't you come through? But it's like, I kind of stopped talking to you.
Yeah. I do that too. I'm like, man, I ain't here for God. And I asked myself, did you talk to him? Mm-hmm. And where were you listening?
Where were you listening?
Yeah. The relationship with God is such an interesting topic.
Very interesting topic.
Such an interesting discussion. Because it's like, essentially we are believing in something that we can't see.
It's very difficult.
Or feel. Or touch. Or literally hear.
So it takes a lot of vision. It's a lot of visionary efforts to do that, right?
It takes a lot of faith, a lot of hope. And honestly, I think for me, I've had the question like, why to believe in God in general?
Yeah. And
the only reason why I continue, I won't say the only reason, but one of the main reasons why I believe in God, it just makes sense. Because for
how does it just make sense to you? Like you said, with all those other factors.
Everything that we see that has been created has a creator. So I would only think that me being created, I have to have a creator, right? The car that you see, somebody made that. The house that you see, somebody made that. The shoes that you have on, somebody made that. So it's like everything that we see has had a creator. So it only makes sense.
I feel you. That it's a great argument. It's a great argument.
Yeah. But I can see why people don't believe in God too. Don't get me wrong. It's easy to accept that too.
For sure.
It's like, what do you mean you believe in something that you don't see or you can't hear? I mean, part of me just does believe that it just makes sense that things just happen and here we are. But we're too.
I think the complexity of it makes it more
I was gonna say that we're too complex for me not to believe.
Like the fingerprints of somebody upon it. You know, like this microphone, right? If you look at this microphone, how intricate it is, and then on the back end, how, you know, stuff gonna come out and the sound and all that. Like, there's so many factors that you just like, man, you'll go up, look up, and you can read about somebody that created it. You feel me? And in the same way, you put your faith and trust that that information is true. Like, we do it all the time. We don't question a lot of that stuff.
I question a whole lot.
Well, a lot of people don't, but you know, you do deep dives.
Yeah.
You do deep dives.
Yeah.
But majority of people, they don't question it. They just kind of like go with the flow. Like even this chair, right?
Yeah.
The people that created the chair, most people don't even think twice about it. They
and
sit down and they, as long as it does what it does.
That's undermining faith, though. You sat down in the chair hoping that it was going to be what you thought it would be. You didn't sit down in the chair hoping that it was going to fall. You sat down in the chair hoping that it was going to hold you up, which is what some of us have to fix and repair within our relationships for things to be good. Because a lot of times we don't even, I don't know if I can say hope, but we have a fear that things would be bad. Because all of it starts in belief and in the mind and how we think. We just went on a long tangent.
It's a tangent. Oh man, I thought it was relevant. It's the journey up, man.
It is the journey up.
It's the journey up, man.
So taking me to the lowest point of your life.
Oh, that's a huge transition.
Paint the picture for me. You're a great artist and you have a great skill with words. I want you to paint the picture. Paint the picture. Make it feel like I'm there.
Make it feel like you're there. You know, and when you pose this question, I was still somewhat, I struggle because I feel like it wasn't just a moment. It was like unfortunate series of lemony snicket events, you know,
Makes sense.
that led up to this moment. You know, kind of like how every brushstroke creates a Mona Lisa. That's how I feel. So yeah, I say 2022 definitely for me was like worst year of my life. When I look hindsight 2020 at it, from being freshly, it was like July, right? I had moved out. I just got married that previous year. We just separated, getting a divorce, and then moving into my own spot like last minute, and then literally having a home invasion like a month or two later after I moved in, like all my studio equipment stolen, almost like 3-4 years of songs worth that was about to be lost. Thankfully got it back, but as I told the story to you a couple times, like they spun the block on me, and I seen walked in my house, and the dude cooking meatloaf in my kitchen. You feel me? And then I'm like, it's up. You feel me? So I started chasing him out. I think I told you too, like my neighbor had shot him, so he's like bleeding. I thought it was like the glass that broke from the window, but nah, he was bleeding out. He had like my spinach and stuff on my seasoning out, but then when he dookied in my favorite pair of pants, that's what really took the cake for me, right? This white pair of joggers with black stripes on the sides, like my favorite pair ever. Just pointing out, like ain't no bleach that can restore its original condition for things such as that, you know. Yeah. If you could see the sight of it, you would have known too. Like, yeah, you know, you can bleach some things, but other things, the Lord cannot make as white as snow again, to say the least.
Oh man.
Yeah, one of my that adds in the notch of leading up to one of my lowest moments. You feel me?
I shouldn't be laughing. These your favorite pair of joggers, man.
You know, in the moment, I wasn't laughing either until about a week after. I'm like, man, he really just one of my favorite pair of pants. Like, and if you would have seen him too, like you'd be like, oh man, it's like it wasn't just like a slight. It's like a. It's like, oh damn, this shit. Hey, nah, you gotta throw this mug out. Well, I said, damn, yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
I said,
Let's keep it moving off of that.
yeah. Okay, too vivid. I saw you say I'm an artist, bro, so I'm a vivid. I use onomatopoeia too. You feel me?
I did tell him to paint the picture.
He told me to paint the picture,
My
so
God.
I painted. I use all this. I use all these tools at my disposal.
Oh,
you gave me the
man.
canvas, bro. So yeah, from that situation, going into that. Kind of recovering from that too, because I still had the residual, because I still stayed in the same spot too, right? Because I like just money wise, I was down bad. Like I ain't had no people out there like that to help me. And so the PTSD residual from that, while I'm coming back in the crib, I'm like I'm on edge, and then my brother hooked me up with a pistol. So like we loading up, went to the range and all that. He kind of putting me up on game, but at the same time, I'm moving around like. Little bit homicidal type tendencies too. Like I wish somebody tried me, and literally like because I was doing Uber at that time too. Like a couple later, because I just couldn't emotionally. I feel like was able to work a regular job. Like the Uber, I think for me just helped be in a space of I kind of shut off at times and not just clock in 9 to 5. Just because the pain, emotional pain I was going through, just being freshly divorced, just felt like unbearable at times. So. Being able to, you know, kind of ride around, but then there's a couple times, you know, I came early this BP off of 38th Street, like a couple times, like dudes came up trying to, you know what I'm saying, run my pockets. So like the anxiety and the readiness and all edginess I felt during that time just like really was heightened. So you couple that with the PTSD, the anxiety, the depression of the past, and then just the recurring theme of just my feelings of abandonment at large, right? Because with my family situation, my folks being divorced before, and then my pops eventually become a very distant relationship in my life. And then my mom's with her mental illness, like usually going and talking to her, it was very toxic, abusive, manipulative. A lot of my emotional needs just not being met when it comes to like parental figures. So basically from high school on, I kind of just figured out how to just cope with things myself individually. And sometimes it's within healthy ways, right? So a large part of the reason why I came to Jesus was really wrestling with pornography and finding release in that and stress relief and coping from that. And so coming back into a space of feeling like, damn, like I'm at one of my lowest lows this year. And then my granny died like that December type shit. So it's like I was at a point where, you know what I'm saying? I had my pistol on my side at the crib, and I was like, you know what, God, like, God, this is the most fucked up I ever been. If you real, you gotta show me something. I'm about to meet you, like, right now. And so I remember I just put it to my temple, and then someone just told me, like, hey, you got 5 people, right? So I looked at my hands, like, you got 5 people. So I hit my nigga Alvin, Chris Mack, Dara, Bryce, and I believe it's one more person who I had texted. And I was like, yo, I just think I'm about to end my life right now. I need some type of prayer. I need some type of like, I don't know why I should keep living. And so when they like text me back fairly quickly, one of them hopped on the phone with, it was just like, man, like, yeah, bro, like woo-de-woo, all that. And kind of gave me motivation for doing a couple more days. And for me, I was at a point where I couldn't really afford therapy either. So, because, you know, I'm working Uber, my healthcare ain't there. And I'm actively ideating what my funeral will look like. Like I'm literally visualizing as I'm driving around, like my brother crying, like my grandma sitting next to me. Like it's just very vivid, my images of my passing. So I think just being in this space where, man, I can't say there's anything but God. And it wasn't no like crazy like angels type moment. It was just like, yo, if I would have did exactly how I was feeling, it just would have been that. And like my neighbors, so I actually even had this instance where like a year or so later, I was cleaning off my pistol and it discharged. And so I had this loud ringing in my, you know, when you get shell shocked, it's like this ringing in your ear. And you just kind of like, it's kind of like in the movies where you like can't hear nothing. You kind of like disoriented for like a good couple minutes. And so as I'm having that happen, I'm like, whoa, this is like low key a flashback, like how this would have been if I would have took my life, because I stepped out and I seen the bullet holes in my crib coming out. I went outside, checked, make sure my neighbors, all that was straight. But it's like the ringing was so loud in my ears too for the longest. And I was like, man, like, so often we can think if we take that decision, like nobody gonna know or hear that hole that we leave. But even from my neighbors to hearing it to the actual holes in the wall to my own ringing in my ears, like that reverberation it will be felt even if you don't see it, if you can't imagine that. And so my only immediate people I thought about was like I said, like my brother, my grandma, my sister, like relationships that I still kind of have had. But when it came to, and also my brother was the 5th person who I texted. So like being in that space of realizing like, yo, even though I didn't understand the depth and weight of it, I knew that somebody out there would eventually need my experiences and my feelings of like, okay, if you at the edge of, you know, because oftentimes in our communities, it's kind of highlighted say like the gun violence or the crime or the poverty, but not the internal oppression and fear that we also face. To where I remember when I was with the Black Church Coalition, this organization that organizes with blackness and mental health, getting different policies set up in place so that police, they actually got this thing to where actually mental health people will respond versus police for certain calls. But I remember somebody had shared on a call that one of the highest stats of gun violence and death was also suicide amongst black boys, right? And I think oftentimes we don't hear that narrative enough of the internal mental health struggles people face, to where a line like how J. Cole had before, it's like, I need a number for my niggas to call when there's an urge to get triggers involved. So it's like we see that glorification of like respect and walking somebody down, or holding that power, but we often don't hear the other side of the narrative. Somebody like me, where it's like, yeah, I still had that tendency in wanting to harm somebody, but I also had the reverse side of wanting to harm myself because of the pain I experienced and just getting sick of the abandonment, like from the early years of my family experience, like the divorce and all that, and the I feel like the gaps I felt emotionally, to then now this, the other recent divorce, and then the home invasion, like, and then almost losing my main patch because I just went to a show and performed, right, like praising God type stuff at a show, to come back to like losing all your stuff, getting robbed, and then back to back having these just like hilarious but also like infuriating moments. It just felt like, man, similar to how I felt my relationship with my father, like the whole time through divorce, home invasion, all that, I ain't had no call, I had no text. So I felt the same way towards God, like, damn, you see all this happen to me, and I feel like what's still here left for me in this world. So I say that was like kind of my lowest point, because I had depression before in college when I had went off and was kind of off by myself and was transitioning into adulthood, like, but I didn't really pursue active access to means with my ideations. But this was like the first point where it's like, man, I had a means, I have everything I need to kind of just like take that step and pull the trigger. But I think God was just gracious to remind me, like, nah, bro, like, there's somebody else that's gonna need what you've been through, and even if it's not this grand scale that we often visit, like a lot of times we have these grand, I won't say delusions of grandeur, but we think it has to be like an MLK or a Malcolm X level, especially for oftentimes black people. It's like you have to have this huge moment, or and I think social media also exacerbates it too, right? Like be influencer of masses, right, to have an impact. But I just think about so many times where it's like I had people where I've been, you know, saying those 2 a.m. calls where they're like, yeah, I'm about to blow my brains out, bro. And having to like sit down and listen and be like, okay, I know that story. You feel me? Because that's me. And then also having the pain of people that I have lost to suicide, and then kind of feeling those pangs of regret to be like, man, how do I, one, not hold on to that I feel like guilt I can feel, but use that as a catalyst to then push people towards a greater reality or vision for another day, right? A new tomorrow. So I say that's kind of my journey up, and still consistently a journey, you know, because I still have my mental health struggles and wrestles on a daily, monthly basis, you know. It doesn't necessarily stop as soon as you reach a certain point, but it's consistent leaning on, I say, that support system. I just think about just looking at your hand, like thinking about, okay, maybe you don't have a direct contact, but who are the 5 people that you think of, and just be like, man, who can I call on literally right in the darkest moment, and then taking that action, you know?
That was beautiful. Thank you for still being here.
No, I'm glad to be here, bro.
Absolutely.
And that honestly, that was crazy, because that was the year I met you too.
Yeah.
At the end, at that show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would have never guessed. And that's the treacherous part about our mental health, right? Because when somebody is physically sick, you can see it most of the time.
Yeah.
But when somebody is mentally sick, a lot of times you have no idea.
At all.
And they could be smiling, and they could be, like you said, you just got back from a performance in front of all these people, you know, people jumping up to your music, tearing and all this, not knowing that you was also at the lowest point of your life. And I think that's just a testament to how we ought to be cautious to how we interact with individuals, because you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
And so grateful for community also, the people that remind you that they need you. Like you said, you looked at your hand and thought of 5 people. And really the thought was these people's lives would be completely changed without me here. And we often neglect the value we bring to the relationships that we have. And I think when we do neglect the value that we bring to the relationships that we have, maybe we should just call one of them and truly let them know how you feel. Because I guarantee they will be very quick to remind you of the value that you bring to their lives. Especially if y'all have a strong relationship. And I know sometimes it gets kind of hard to where you don't want to talk to nobody.
Yeah.
You don't want
season where you
you want you kind of want to hide it. I hate how we kind of look at mental health and feeling down and feeling low. It has kind of a stigma to it, to where it's like negative. Oh, you're mentally sick. What's wrong with you? You need to get it together. That's your fault.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody is physically sick, we give all the grace in the world. Oh, you're sick. What do you need? Do you need me?
What do you need?
Do you need me to bring you something? Do you need some Gatorade? Do you need me to bring you some food? Some stuff like that. You know what I mean? But when people are mentally sick, sometimes we need those same things. And quite often, what we need is community. We need that reminder of the value that we actually do bring. Because I guarantee that there are at least 5 people in your lives that you bring value to. And if not, I challenge you to get into some spaces that will find you valuable. Because I do believe that every human has a sense of value. Like we literally need each other.
Yeah.
And it's easy to forget that when we're in our own heads. But if you get out of your head and get into real life, you'll notice like, wow, people actually need me. Or not just need me, but people actually see me.
See me.
And you wanna learn if people see you or not? Go walk into some traffic. Watch the car start to swerve.
You know, that's a perfect segue too. I was watching this video Sunday. I just started bawling because it's this. I don't know how YouTube recommended it, but it was this dude. It said a mega church pastor heard somebody cussing in it. I don't know if it's like viral or something. He searched somebody cussing in his church, and then this is what he did, basically like clickbaitish type thing. But so they brought the dude up. He said like, "Fuck yeah," or something during the sermon, and then so he said, "Okay, like appreciate enthusiasm, but can you please not do it for the young ears here and stuff like that." But then they brought the dude up. He's telling his story. Essentially, a dude had brought him to church with him because he had said he was literally the dude that brought him didn't notice, but as he got up there and was hugging the pastor and crying, he was like I was literally about to walk in front of traffic this like 3 minutes before this dude found me because I've been homeless for a while and I don't feel like, nobody cared about me. So even as you said that, just remind me about that because it's like, in a mega church thing, I feel like it's so easy to get lost in crowds and stuff like that, but it was such a moment where somebody comes up to the front and is seen by all these people and is affirmed about their worth and value when probably they was feeling worthless for the long. Like, me, homeless, like,
yeah.
So I know best because my mom was homeless for the longest. So, like, when I see people in the trenches and struggle, that's like family to me, But you feel so unseen and unheard. So for him to be like you're saying, if you go off in traffic, like people gonna be like, yo, like, hey, look, talk, like, stop. It don't matter what the relation is to you. They don't want to see you perish that way because
they're gonna swerve. They're gonna try
as
to
a human
you.
breathing, you have value.
Yeah, and even that's with no relationship.
That part.
That's with no relationship at all. They just see somebody walking in the middle and they're like, we can't hit them.
Yeah.
And that's the inherent value that each individual has. And you want to up the value, up your relationships. Like truly try to strengthen your relationships. Truly try to be there. Truly try to be a friend. More than anything else. Because more than we think that we want friends or need friends, we have to be friends. And that brings, it's almost like a magnetic force that happens. It's like the more you understand that your value as a friend is important and you value you actually being a friend, the higher value for the friends around you is. And you'll get more valuable friends too. But I think we forget that, especially in those moments where we feel alone.
I had a question that popped up though. Why do you think it usually has to escalate to the point though somebody having to jump in front of traffic moment for people to hear them?
It's a great question.
Like, I think we can operate on such a surface level approach with people because it's comfortable, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know. It's like the onus can't be on every single person per se, right? Because everybody has their own stuff going on. But simultaneously, how do we have those moments where those spaces are created to where niggas don't have to be on the edge? Like, I don't know. I feel like it's so many factors, right? But how we not let it escalate to that so often? Which I don't think it's as often, but
No, it happens. How do we stop it?
mm-hmm. How do we see people more?
Simple things. A smile at somebody as you're walking past them. A hi, a hello. Little things like that go a far away, especially to somebody who thinks that they're invisible. And we don't think about it a lot in passing because we don't think it's our responsibility.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not your responsibility. But if you want to accept the call to make somebody feel seen, you could save their lives simply by just noticing them, saying hi, hello, how are you, and genuinely meaning it. Not just in passion, but stopping and wanting to listen to what they're going through. Because I've learned real quick that people will open up to you if you stop and you listen. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's all they need. Have you ever talked to somebody and they got everything off their chest and they're like, thank you so much, I feel so much better. And you're like, I didn't even do anything.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Why do we treat listening like it's nothing?
Ooh, dang. That's a hard one. But, and it's like, people are rewarded for talking, though. You know? I think
more people need to be rewarded for shutting up.
Yeah. But, you know, even from your age, from a kid, like, you got to speak what you want. You know what I mean? Or else you're not going to get it.
It's all about balance.
Yeah, definitely a balance. But I think even now it's hyper focused on, okay, what is this person saying? What is the message? You know, even something like this, like we on the podcast right now, these podcasts have given people platforms. A lot that I don't think need them, but, you know, we're neither here nor there. Mm-hmm. But, like, being great at talking and moving people, I think has become the most valued skill versus, like, seeing or hearing people.
Yeah. That's very attentive. 'Cause like I said, I think it just gets very down to the point of I see you. Mm-hmm. And being a listening ear goes a long way. Sometimes more than having something to say, having some advice, which is one thing I've tried to stop doing, is giving people unsolicited advice. If they don't ask for some type of advice, most of the time I'm not going to give it. I'm just going to listen. Sometimes that's all people need.
It's hard to do.
But you can also tell when somebody is looking for advice.
For sure.
It might take a little bit of studying or whatever, but if you're truly attentively listening, you can tell if this person is actually saying something and they want you to say something back versus if they're just trying to get some stuff off their chest. I ain't got the time to dive deep into that today, but I'll get deep into that soon one day. Ooh. It's a big difference. Ooh. Big difference. Damn. Like, is this person coming to you just to listen, or looking to you just to listen or are they coming to you looking for advice? Because there is a big difference. You might mess up by trying to give advice to somebody who just needs somebody to listen. There's a post going around on Instagram saying, it said, don't give a lecture to somebody who needs a hug.
Ooh, that's good.
And that's deep.
That's really good.
Sometimes ain't nobody trying to hear all that.
Yeah.
Like, shut up, for real. I ain't trying to hear it. Just give me a hug. Because I know exactly what's wrong. I just need some love. How would you say that you built this relationship with becoming a mental health enthusiast through accepting your journey and reaching the low lows, but finding your way out?
How have I accepted this journey of becoming a mental health enthusiast, reaching these low lows, but finding a way out?
Or is that the way how?
Yeah,
Because
I
you've
think
reached the low lows and you found the way out.
yeah, and I think that's really within that question is somewhat the answer for me, because I just consider first my individual life, right? So my first upbringings where I feel like hip hop kind of gave me a voice or heard me, felt like it articulated my experience really well. But then also then years later down the line, specific songs, specific artists, the first time I went through depression in college, like this song called Live by Derek Minor and the song called Can't Stop Me Now by Lecrae was on this playlist on repeat. And I was like, man, I wouldn't have made it out without those songs, because I feel like they literally embodied a hug for me, because they felt so genuine and authentic towards living and not letting the trauma and the pain stop me.
Which little conduit, it's beautiful. You say that those songs save your life, help save your life, and you've went on to actually work with Derek Minor, right?
Yeah, which was a crazy experience. That was actually the same year that I almost committed suicide.
Really?
Yeah, I went out to Nashville and Grand Rapids that same year, and it's like, it's kind of surreal seeing. A lot of people don't have that because a lot of the artists they listen to is so far out of reach, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I literally sat down in the studio, made a song with him, and received so much affirmation directly from him too. That like, man, you dope, and super glad that you here and still pushing. And I communicated like what his songs did for me. So like, that was a super surreal experience, to the point where it's like, man, God's hand was clearly there and present.
Music definitely be saving lives, boy.
No,
Music
it
definitely
be
saved
saving
my life.
lives, bro. And I feel like that's why I feel a call with it. Both because of some prophecies I received regarding it, but then also when I got robbed and then I got the equipment back, like,
it's like, oh, you supposed to do this.
Yeah, I literally told God, I'm like, man, if you don't want me to do this, like, okay, I'll be cool with it either way, I guess. I still seek to serve you. But that would have been like, I kept thinking about, like, if I would have lost 4 or 5 years worth of music, bro, can't lie, I was really shitty. I was about to set it off. I was going to crash out. But with God just gracing to give that back to me, I felt like I have to leave this life empty, And I mean, you seen that probably like that year or two after, like, I was releasing songs every other week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've kind of found a rhythm now, but like, bro, I really feel like somebody, and I think it's already happened, but somebody's bodies and movements are gonna hear my music, and they're not gonna kill themselves because they listen to my songs. And
would you say that's your hope as an artist?
Oh yeah, bro. Like, I mean, a lot of niggas, they have, and I have dreams and, like, of course, maybe goals and benchmarks that would be nice. Of like, say I want to have like 100 people at a show and perform at certain places, because I like those community feels. I don't really have industry goals per se. Like, there's artists that I'm like, oh wow, it would be cool to maybe be around them, but I'm not really like, after a hit or a viral type moment, like, I feel like those would be cool. But if I like those messages, and that's why I keep at my shows, like, I have this book that says like the replay of my experience, right?
Yeah.
And I look back through those, and that's actually helped form my mission statement, because a lot of people kept saying bold, bold, bold. So I'm like, okay, I'm just doing what the people say about it. Like, those stories to me is like my crowns and my trophies. Like, if I can save as many people from taking that step, or just from being inspired and empowered to keep taking steps. Like I feel like those are kind of the jewels in my crown, so to speak. And if I can lead my life, if I can lead a legacy of just empowering people to fight fear, right? To fight those fears of the next day or decisions or paralysis. Like I think those mean so much more to me than anything I can accomplish, like statistic wise, metric wise.
It's beautiful to see you living out your mission. I won't say so effortlessly, but so genuinely. 'Cause a lot of times we'll look at things and say it's effortlessly. And I know you put in a lot of effort into.
There's a lot of effort.
Into
The thing is, you try to
are.
make it look effortless. I could always say it's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And try to make it, it's effort.
With the hopes that it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point of seeing the fruits of your labor, we were at your listening party last week, I think it was.
Oh yeah,
2 weeks ago, and it was beautiful.
I was so humble.
And I loved being in that space because I've been in listening spaces with you where it's just me and you. Me, you, and about two other people. And to go from 4 people to a room full of 50 people, like, man, this is beautiful. This is growth. This is what people aspire and hope for. And it was beautiful to see live. So I just want to congratulate you on that and tell you thank you for not giving up. Because I know, especially as an artist, you have moments where you're like, I ain't doing this no more. Forget about this.
I was there the other day.
I might as well sell all my stuff.
Yeah.
And
give it back to the people that stole it.
Give it back to them. Maybe they'd be better than me at it. But I thank you for not giving up. And I encourage you not to give up. Because your mission is powerful, and there are people who are wanting and needing, not just wanting, but needing to hear you. You will, and I'm sure you have saved somebody's life. So don't give up. I appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you, bro. For sure.
Yeah. What can the people expect from Rome Herbert coming up next?
Oh, coming up next, man, you just have to watch.
He said y'all got to tune in.
Like, I'm very grateful to be blessed right now. Currently, I got an artist residency, right, with this church plant in Hallville. So I'm gonna be teaching songwriting workshops to just some teens in the community. I took a leap of faith. I started doing something independently, but then they approached me with it. Then other people approached me about doing more workshops. So I'm very excited about just doing that, and I'm gonna produce a project with them too as part of the residency.
It's beautiful.
Empowering people, continue to empower people with my resources and platforms, but then also I'm gonna be performing a lot more because I'm in a coaching program it's helping me get more paid gigs. So I'm gonna be traveling by God's grace a lot more, spreading the message around a little bit more regionally is my goal. But then, of course, like I said, like the music to me is like it's just in my blood. So I just write a lot. Yeah. You know, I try a lot of things out. Some things aren't as good, but
it's the joy of being an artist.
Yeah, the joy of being an artist. You feel me? So I'm just trying to leave this life empty, bro. Like all the interactions I can have, all the music so I got probably like 2 or 3 projects in mind. They're very like bare bone stage right now, but I got a couple of projects in mind, and I'm gonna be releasing because it's not officially out, the project listening party I did.
Yeah. I'm
gonna release a couple singles from that, and then probably drop it like when I graduate the mastermind program, like drop the project like officially. So yeah, look forward to having nothing business. It's just personal out in December.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I always encourage my guests to give the listeners a message of encouragement if you have one.
A message of encouragement if I have one. Man, if you're not encouraged by this conversation, I don't know what else I could give you. But my main encouragement, man, just look at your hand, man. I guarantee you, if you're watching this too, like you already have 2 people. Like you already have 2 people that would love to connect with you and hear your story and when you're at that low, like, you know what I'm saying? Just hit us up. And then now that the two's out the way, think about 3 more people that would in your life that would legitimately love to just hear what's on your heart, hear what's on your mind. It don't even have to be super deep. It could just be like, man, I'm excited about this, or man, I'm scared about taking this leap about starting this new endeavor, right? I think just creating space for both and the rush of that excitement, and then just realizing, man, there is a God in heaven that sees you, that loves you, and has intentionally crafted your story up to this point in time. Especially if you're seeing this, like the love that is present right now is beyond anything you can imagine. You know, I've had moments where I felt it. I had moments where I felt disconnected from it, but it's there, and yeah, it's so deep, it's so wide, but it sometimes it gets hard to feel throughout the other cares of this life, but it's definitely there. And I encourage you to, whatever spiritual journey you're on, just know that there is a love out there. It's one of my favorite songs called Stupid Deep by John Bellion. And it says, what if the love I fought to feel was always free, you know? So often we search for love in so many other places, but it's like right there, waiting for us to tap in. So that'd be my encouragement to the people. Yeah.
Find your 5.
Find your 5.
I think that's something we should write.
Find your 5.
Find your 5. I guess I would say in closing, one, like I said, thank you for not giving up, for sure. And the listeners who have wanted to give up, thank you guys for not giving up as well. Because weeping does endure for a night, and sometimes the night is very long, but joy will come in the morning. So don't you lose the hope. Don't lose the faith, and keep going. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Journey Up podcast. Hope to catch you next time. Peace.
Journey Up. Hope they have me back. Oh, man.